6 months ago, I thought the worst thing that could ever happen to me already had. My wife Margaret, the woman I shared 40 years with, passed away and left a silence in our Denver home so heavy it nearly swallowed me whole. Grief has a way of hollowing out a man until even the air feels borrowed. So, I packed up what was left of my life and drove into the mountains, to the only place that still felt like mine, my grandfather's old cabin in Pine Ridge Estates. The cabin sits on 40 acres, wrapped in pine and frost, where the wind carries the smell of earth instead of asphalt. My grandfather built it with his own hands in the 1940s, and I grew up learning how to mend fences, repair tractors, and split wood in its shadow. To me, this cabin wasn't just a house, it was a lifeline. 47 homes dot the mountainside nearby, most owned by weekend warriors in designer flannel or retirees pretending to play mountain man. We all shared a single road in and out, tied together by one concrete bridge. I didn't know it yet, but that bridge, weathered, cracked, and taken for granted, was going to change everything. Trouble came the day Victoria Thornfield moved in. Fresh from the city, sharp suit, sharper smile, and the kind of woman who believed rules existed to be written by her alone. Within 6 months she had maneuvered herself into HOA president, and her mission became crystal clear: turn Pine Ridge into her own suburban fantasy. The first knock on my door carried the sound of trouble. Her heels clicked on my wooden porch like nails in a coffin. "Mr. Blackwood," she said, clipboard tucked under her arm, "your cabin doesn't meet community standards." I looked around at my grandfather's log walls, his old workshop, and the garden that had fed 3 generations of Blackwoods. "What standards are those?" I asked. She flipped open her folder. Fresh paint required. Workshop deemed unsightly. Gardens, non-conforming. She said my cabin was dragging down property values. Margaret always said I had patience like a saint, but hearing Victoria insult 3 generations of sweat and sacrifice lit a fire inside me. "This cabin's been standing here 80 years, I told her. "It'll stand another 80, whether you like it or not." Her smile sharpened. "We'll see about that." 2 weeks later, the first letter landed in my mailbox. An official complaint from the county about unpermitted structures that had been here longer than Victoria had been alive. The inspector, a kid barely old enough to shave, apologized while handing me a bill for $3,200 in permits. That was her opening shot. Next came the fence. I woke one morning to the sound of hammering and found her brother-in-law driving posts 15 feet into my land, blocking sunlight to my workshop. He claimed the survey showed the property line had shifted. Funny how it shifted right in her favor. Then came the mailbox war. My hand-carved oak box, something I'd built myself, was suddenly non-standard. The replacement? A flimsy $340 plastic box sold by none other than her son. Garbage pickup mysteriously skipped my house. Anonymous complaints about my firewood hazard called inspectors to my door. Neighbors whispered support but kept their distance, too afraid of becoming her next target. Only Mrs. Holloway, an elderly widow, pressed a thermos of coffee into my hands one evening and whispered, "This isn't right, Ezra. We're with you." Victoria thought she was breaking me piece by piece. She didn't realize every strike only sharpened my resolve. One sleepless night, I sat in my grandfather's old workshop, sifting through boxes of papers yellowed with time. Mining claims, survey maps, tax receipts. That's when I found it. A document dated 1943, granting exclusive easement rights to the Blackwood estate for the bridge and road connecting Pine Ridge to the outside world. My heart kicked in my chest. The bridge wasn't community property. It wasn't owned by the county. It belonged to me. Every truck, every SUV, every resident who came or left Pine Ridge, they were crossing my land. I took the deed to the courthouse the next morning. The clerk confirmed it. I held the title to the only lifeline connecting 47 homes to civilization. Suddenly, every fine, every insult, every fence post drove me toward a single, inescapable conclusion. Victoria had no idea who she was fighting. She thought she was tightening a noose around my neck. She didn't know I held the knife to cut the rope. Victoria doubled down. She ordered construction crews to install an electronic gate at the community entrance. Keypads, cameras, even a guard shack like we were living in a prison. My access code? Disabled. One afternoon, I returned from a supply run to find the gate's red light blinking like a robotic middle finger. A rent-a-cop leaned out of the shack. "Sorry, sir. System error. You'll need to contact the HOA president." They had locked me out of my own home. That was the moment I stopped playing defense. I called Sarah Chen, a property rights attorney I'd met through a friend. After hearing my story, she didn't hesitate. "Ezra, they've crossed the line from harassment into criminal territory. You're not alone anymore. Let's build a case." Victoria thought she trapped me behind a gate. She had no clue she'd just opened one I intended to walk straight through, into court, with the law on my side. Sarah brought in a forensic accountant named Miguel, and what he uncovered made my blood run cold. For years, Victoria had been funneling money through shell companies disguised as infrastructure contracts. Landscaping billed at triple the cost, paid to her son. Surveying invoices padded with thousands, paid to her brother-in-law. Legal fees inflated beyond reason, straight into her husband's firm. But the crown jewel? Bridge maintenance payments. The county had been cutting checks to a company called Pine Ridge Infrastructure LLC. On paper, it sounded official. In reality, it was Victoria's personal piggy bank. She'd pocketed over $2 million for repairs never done. We documented every invoice, every payment, every forged signature. Neighbors who'd once been too scared to speak started sharing their own stories. Emergency assessments that went nowhere, improvement projects that never materialized. Victoria wasn't just a bully. She was a thief. And now we had the proof.
The community center was packed the night of the emergency meeting. Victoria strutted to the podium, cream-colored suit gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "We're here to address dangerous elements threatening our community," she began. That's when I stood. I laid my grandfather's deed on the table and raised my voice. "This document proves I own the bridge. For 15 years, Victoria's been stealing money meant for its upkeep. $2.7 million. Gasps filled the room. Miguel connected his laptop to the projector, displaying flowcharts of fraud. Neighbors shouted. Sheriff Martinez stepped forward. "Victoria Thornfield," he said. "Cuffs ready. You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and racketeering." The metallic click of handcuffs silenced the room. Justice had arrived. With Victoria gone, Pine Ridge began to heal. A new board was elected, transparent and fair. The stolen funds were ordered returned. The community bought the bridge from me for fair value, and I placed every cent into a scholarship fund for local kids. Neighbors who once hid behind curtains now waved from porches. Mrs. Holloway led volunteer crews to restore the bridge properly, this time with honest hands. Laughter echoed across the mountains again. As for me, grief no longer chained me the way it once had. I still missed Margaret every day, but I felt her presence in the justice we fought for, in the friendships rebuilt, and in the knowledge that even the smallest man can stand tall when backed by truth. So I'll ask you, have you ever faced an HOA nightmare? Share your story below. I read everyone.